morning, everybody. Come on, I want a bit more energy. Good morning, everybody. All right, so why don't you turn to your neighbor and give them a high five? Tell them good to see you here today. Tell them you look lovely today. And tell them you look like a doctor today. Because I know we have a lot of doctors. Even myself, I am a doctor by association. So please refer to me as Dr. Michael. I'll be very happy. All right, it's good to see you here today. We are very excited that we are here. Thank you for honoring the invite for the launch on soil acidity and liming handbook for Kenya. I don't know how many people are excited about it. If you're excited, say yay. Yeah, that sounds like it. You know, the problem with scientists is if I told you if you're excited, say P205, you guys would say P205. But anyway, we are happy that you're here. So we want to do a little exercise. I want to throw you under the bus for a little. So we have two screens, one on this side and one on this side. I'd like Alex to assist me with something. I want you to go to your browser. Just get out your phone or your laptop. And then I want you to go to your browser. All right, Dr. Isilaba, I'm waiting for you. All right, if you're on your browser, go to www.menti. Is it Mentimeter or is Menti? Mentimeter. So go to or rather, it's actually menti.com. And then I want you to enter the use code 466905151. The number is still on the screen. Let me read it again. The number is, are you all on that landing page, menti.com, on the website? If you're there, say yay. If you're not there, say nay. All right, let's give the nays a few minutes. Dr. Makini, what's happening to your phone? Oh, you said yay. All right. All right, are we on that page? If you're on that page, type 4669. Go to menti.com on your browser, on Menti, MENTI.com. If you just search Mentimeter or Menti, it will take you to the website. And then when you're there, are you there? All right, so what I want you to do is enter the code 4669. I see some of us are already in there. And then 0151. So the number one more time is 4669 0151. Assist your neighbor if your neighbor is not yet there. Yes, the number is 4669 0151. The number is 4669 0151. I believe most of us are there, if not all of us. Index ones are already typing. And then the other indexes are still looking for the instructions. Even Dr. Isilaba has gotten it, so everyone should be there now. And he was the last one. All right, so the first question is, which organization do you represent today? So those people who are also joining us online, if you could as well go there, you could type it on the chat, that would be lovely. Just type it on the chat, you're representing this organization. If it's a research institute, development partner, an education institute, please go ahead and type it there. I see Gatsby Africa, I see Calro, Coffee Research, Tegemea Institute, Fadhili Services. We have 38 responses. FIPS Africa, I see University of Eldoret, I see Independent Consultant, GIZ, now TMAC Agro East Africa, Afridec, Salka Consulting, Chuka University. Is there any person who probably has not answered the first question? Maseno University, I see, Chiromo, Simit, Kepsa, The Nature Conservancy, CIAT, quite a number. CFAO, Agri Limited, Tegemea Institute, AfriDec. All right, so I believe we have 56 responses. How many are we? Hopefully around that number. All right, I still see one table that are still looking for some instructions. Are you guys good? All right, that's good. So I want us to go to the next question. Yeah, 63 responses, that's good. All right, so I'd like to know a little bit about you. Where did you do your undergraduate course? Which university did you go to for your undergraduate course? Just type it in. We have one response, University of Eldoret, UON, KU. There's a lot of UON, KU. Egerton University, that's my alma mater as well. JQuat, Egerton, Sokoina University from TZ, Moi University. Everyone went to St. Paul's, Multimedia. Everyone went to just a local university. No one started from up and came down to do their PhD in UON. Like from Harvard, and then you come to do at UON. All right, Texas. Oh, there's someone from Texas. University of California, University of Washington, MKU, ECU, I see you. 48 responses. I hope we'll get to 63. Those who are joining us virtually, I hope you're posting on the chats. Leeds University. All right, I believe most of us went to this university, so that's good. So let's go to the next one. The next question. All right, so this one, I want to hear what your stories from the fields look like. So I was told just before we go to this question, in Western Kenya, I think this Michael is the one who told me. In Western Kenya, there was a farmer who said he used to harvest a lot of kilograms, and then he's raised the kids from that farm, and now the yields are just going down and down. It's like he has been bewitched. So the myth is actually that he has been bewitched. That's why things are not working out. So what are some of the myths that we've had? So DAP is the best fertilizer. I have had a lot of this. Liming is not a necessity. I have had a lot of that as well. Fertilizers cause soil acidity. Is that a myth or it's a truth? We will discuss probably at some point. DAP is the main cause of soil acidity. Is that a myth? How many people believe it's a myth? DAP causes soil acidity. If you believe, say yay. If you don't, say nay. All right, we'll hear that. So liming solves micronutrient deficiencies. We will probably get to hear that. Decline in soil fertility over years of farming. Is that a myth or it's a truth? All right, and then fertilizer makes soil acidic. Okay, okay. If you could scroll up a bit, Alex. Alex, kindly scroll up a bit. No, not on the question, on the previous response here. Liming is expensive. Is it expensive? Homerline will tell us how much he sells his lime at and whether it has VAT on it. Fertilizers destroy the soil. Fertilizers spoil soils. Okay, those are quite... Oh, someone has bewitched my shamba. At least there's something interesting. Organic amendments is the solution. My farm was cast. That's very interesting. All right, Alex, let's go to the next question. Now, this is the most interesting one, and I'd like to know who will get it right. So before Mount Everest was discovered, which was the highest mountain? Before Mount Everest was discovered, which was the highest mountain? I'd like to see responses to this. Before Mount Everest was discovered, which was the highest mountain? No, you post the answer. I'm waiting for the answer. Timothy, you've already posted. I see very interesting answers. Now they're coming in. Before Mount Everest was discovered, Biko, what's your response? Okay. Before John, which is the mountain? I didn't see you type. Before Mount Everest was discovered, which was the tallest mountain? You have already? Okay. All right, so let's take a quick poll, just by a show, raising our hands. How many people think it is Mount Elgon? I see Mount Elgon here. How many people think it's Mount Elgon? All right, I see 2 people. How many think it's Mount Kenya? The answer is Mount Kenya. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, how many people think it's Kilimanjaro? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, how many think it's hey, what is this? Aconcagua. Where is this mountain? Who wrote that? Who wrote this Aconcagua mountain? This must be one of those local mountains. All right, well, probably it's the mountain in your life. And the last one, Chimboraza. Where is Chimboraza? Mount Chimboraza. Where is it? Who wrote it? Who gave us this answer? Mount Chimboraza. Very interesting. And then the last one, how many people think it's Mount Everest? Yeah, it was still the same mountain. Just that it was brought to our attention later, it doesn't mean that it just came out of nowhere. All right, so now that we've started with that, I'd like to give us a few housekeeping rules. We have a pretty tight schedule today, and the tight schedule means we probably will not have any break. There's one more question? Oh, all right. So we may not have any break until lunch. So that means that's why we gave you a very heavy breakfast earlier, to just make sure we cover for that. We will start with a few remarks all the way to by the time we do the launch towards the end. So I'll kindly ask that we sit tight so that we get the program going. That's number one. Number two, we need to be very conscious about time. Most speakers have about 5 minutes. So I'll kindly ask that we keep our remarks to around 5 minutes, apart from some specific speakers. Those whom I will invite as a group, I will also ask that you keep it to the time so that we save on time. And lastly, I will also ask that we keep our phones on silent. If we can have our phones on silent, especially now, that would be lovely, so that we do not get to disrupt those who are presenting. And then last but not least, if you'd like to use the washrooms, for the gents, you'll go through this exit and turn to your left, go to the end of the hallway. That's where we have the gents. And then for the ladies, it's on the opposite side. You leave through this exit, turn on your right, go straight to the end. All right, so at this juncture, I'd like to invite our first speaker, and this is the co-chairperson, KFAT's co-chairperson, and that is Mr. Eustace Muriuki. So why don't we give him a round of applause as he makes his way? Come on, let's give Mr. Muriuki a better round of applause. All right, karibu sana.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this Acidity and Liming book launch organized by Gatsby Africa in collaboration with Carol, our universities, Rongo Pwani, Maseno, Carol. She has done a lot of work on this liming program, and all other stakeholders who have participated in this activity to bring us to where we are today. And particularly, I would also like to recognize the Homeline Company, which has been providing liming material for several years. Now, I'm here as the co-chairman of a Kenya Fertilizer Platform, which was launched in July 2019. And we had so many stakeholders in this launch. And we have not yet registered this platform. We have IFDC acting as the secretariat, and I'm the co-chair from the Fertilizer Association of Kenya, representing the fertilizer industry, and we have another co-chairman from the Ministry of Agriculture. So before we proceed, I think we have to thank our government for giving us enabling an environment to carry out these studies. And I would like to take you through the vision, mission, and objectives of this KFAT. We call it KEFAT. We call it KFAT platform. Please just project the slide on the KFAT. Okay, there you can see our vision. Our vision is to be a competitive, vibrant, innovative, and commercially oriented fertilizer sector in this country. Our mission is to promote increased agricultural production and productivity through sustainable and safe use of appropriate fertilizers and soil amendments. And lime has happened to be one of the soil amendments that we have to apply into ourselves so that we can be able to make our fertilizers more efficient. Goals, what are our goals? One is to facilitate action on key issues in the fertilizer sector, identified through regular multi-stakeholder dialogue. And sorry, just remove that. There's a blockage there. Can you see it from there? The second one is champion growth of the fertilizer sector, and 3 is to provide leadership on matters related to fertilizer sector development. Next, what are our objectives? Objectives 1 is to reduce inefficiencies in the fertilizer supply chain and reduce market distortions through evidence-based analysis. I want to say that we have actually commissioned a study to look at the impact on the subsidy fertilizers to the private sector, which is ongoing, and very soon we shall be able to release the report. And you see how the private sector has been affected by the government subsidy. 2, promote appropriate technologies, innovations, and management practices related to soil health and changing climatic conditions. Facilitate formulation and review relevant fertilizer policies and regulations. 4 is to promote sustainable usage and affordability of appropriate fertilizers and soil amendment, which we are actually trying to do now. Promote information, dissemination, and capacity building within the fertilizer sector. 6, promote self-regulation of the sector. 7 is address bottlenecks that a specific industry actor cannot address themselves, but we can be able to address that as an organization. 8 is coordination, arbitration among industry actors. If there is a dispute among the fertilizer players, we can actually offer ourselves to sort out the dispute. Our structure, as we have mentioned there, we have 2 co-chairs, one from the Ministry of Agriculture, and the other one is from FEK. And we also wanted in our committee, we wanted to include the Fertilizer and Animal Food Board, which we, at the time of launch, we thought that this thing would come into place allowed the 2020. For those of you who do not know, this Fertilizer and Animal Food Staff Board came about through a private motion in Parliament, and it was enacted in 2015. But as we speak now, it has not been operationalized. We thought that it was a very important board because we're supposed to control the importation, distribution, the quality, and everything about the fertilizer in this country. But unfortunately, it has not been in place. It is still yet to be operationalized. Now, we also had a member. We had also thought of actually incorporating the Council of Governors. We have a nominee there to be in the board. And we had Carlo. All those have mentioned are voting members. Then we had Tegemeo, which has done a lot of work in the fertilizer industry in this country, as you all know. And we wanted to have 2 representatives, farmer representative organizations like KENAF and CGA, the Cereal Growers Association. So we have 2 members from those 2 bodies. Then we had to get 3 members from the FEK, 1 to represent the blenders, manufacturer, and an importer. And we then had to incorporate institutions like Kenya Market Trust, which is today Gatsby Africa, IFDC, and AFAP, Africa Fertilizer and Agribusiness Project. Now, that is all about the KIFAT. And what are we supposed to do? What are some of the activities we are supposed to undertake as KIFAT? And one of them is to hold for like what we have here now on cross-cutting issues, identify constraints, and recommend best practice solutions. Second one, maintenance of internal and external communication related to KIFAT and fertilizer sector activities. 3, resource mobilization to enable partners to operate the platform and address priority actions. 4, develop a multi-sectoral action plan to guide public and private decision-making and investments. 5, engage experts, as we have done today, at institutions to undertake technical studies on identified issues. Those are the objectives of the Kenya Fertilizer Platform. And to talk about this launch today, you all know that especially in Western Kenya, the Mount Kenya region, Uasin Gishu, the soils are highly acidic. According to the information available, about 13% of the arable land is actually contains acidic soils. These are soils with pH less than 5.5. And you all know that we in the fertilizer sector, it does not matter how much fertilizer we put in, as long as these fertilizers will be locked up by the ions, aluminium, and hydrogen ions, it will not be available for plant uptake. So like the phosphate ions, phosphate fertilizers, for example, you put a lot of it, and then you have the phosphate ions reacting with or combining with aluminium to form the aluminium phosphate ion. This thing, the phosphate ion is higher so tightly that will not be available for plant uptake. So the phosphate you applied is useless. So in this country, much as we are talking about the fertilizers, we need to talk about the liming. Way back, I remember when I was a very young research worker, somewhere in working in the Gitwaba substation, and that is early 80s. We had the problem of those acid soils, the so-called blackened soils or the adult soils, the FAO classification. And you find that these people were not able to grow maize there because when they tried to grow maize, then it was stunted because the roots were being, the aluminium ions were toxic to the plant, although therefore they're not able to look for the nutrients in the soil. And we came out with a recommendation and we introduced a lime in that area, and we held a demonstration whereby we called the farmers to show them the benefits of the lime, and they were able to get very good yield. Unfortunately, we, the private sector, are to blame because we are not able to sustain that, to make the lime available to the last mile. Because as long as it does not matter all the work, and we appreciate all the work these people have done, all these doctors here, but as long as that message does not get to the farmer to make use of that information, it still remains in our shelves. Okay, and I'm happy today that we'll be able to launch this book, which will be available to schools, universities, and anybody who's interested in knowing the liming, how you can go about liming their soils so that they can be able to get increased crop productivity. And I want to say this, lime has been a nuisance because normally it used to be in powder form, and many people were not able to use it because it could actually be able to blow your nose and it was not comfortable, you felt uncomfortable. And we want to report here that, and I congratulate ARM, who actually decided way back in early 90s, to be able to granulate the lime and be able to incorporate that in a fertilizer blend. So now we are able now to incorporate the the lime as a granule into the fertilizer blend, whereby we know we shall be able to add the calcium nutrient and magnesium, which is a dolomitic limestone, and then we will be able to make the nutrients held in the soil made available. So I also want to say that today, because of that development, we have about 3 companies in this country now which are able to grant with fertilizer. We have the Shiromo fertilizers, which used to be ARM. Then we have the Maisha fertilizers. Then we have the Fertiplant East Africa Limited in Nakuru. Though they can be able to grant with fertilizer. And you know, we have put a lot of emphasis on NPK fertilizer in this country. You either have to use you can use now lime as a granule, either as a feeder or as a supplier of the calcium element. You all know that when the soils are very acidic, the calcium is missing. So is magnesium missing. So if you add that material, you'll be able to add those nutrients which are actually highly required by the soil. Okay. Now, before I sit down, you cannot you cannot separate the liming and the fertilizers. We are saying, whereas the liming materials are available here locally, with the fertilizers, you have to import them. And when you import the fertilizers, it depends when you go to the market. Just like the fuel. Unfortunately, farmers all over Kenya, they know there has been always adjustments of the fuel prices every month, and they don't ask those questions. Why is that price fluctuating? But they have the audacity to ask why the fertilizer are very high. We go to source for these fertilizers from the international market, and when the prices are high, if you happen to go to the market when it is high, then you bring your material. When then it drops now, then you do not know what to do with the stocks. I want to say, the private sector in this country is holding a lot of stocks, because by the time we brought the stocks here around February, the prices were very high. Currently, the prices of fertilizers have kept going down. And now when you have the government subsidizing this thing to 2,500, there is nobody who brought fertilizer at the price of 2,500. So we are holding those stocks, and we are only appealing to the government to buy those stocks and subsidize so that it can get to the farmer. So I am told that my time is up. And the only thing I would say that I think I would like to urge the private sector, please, let's make sure that this line is available to the village. Unless we do that, we can spend the whole day here talking, and the farmer will never make use of that thing. So we still be able to register, we should be registering low yields. Adoption of this liming, I am sorry to learn that it's only between 1 to 8%. It doesn't matter. Therefore, I would like, I have been to some funerals, and every time an administrator is given time to say something about the government policy. So I would request, could there be an opportunity where an agricultural officer is given time to talk about liming, especially in the areas where the soils are very acidic? If that is done, then we'll be able to pass the message to our farmers, and we'll be able to increase our crop production and crop production. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Let's give him a round of applause. That's quite a passionate call. Yeah, I mean, you could see the passion in his face and in his expression. I think, Mr. Morioki, the best influencers in funerals are politicians. They will always get an opportunity to talk. So those are the people you tell them, one more message is tell people to use lime. Well, thank you so much. Another round of applause to Mr. Morioki. Thank you. All right, so I'd like to invite a number of people to give speeches, so I will only announce them once. And when I do, please just come in the same order that I will invite you on stage. I will probably not come in between so that we save on time. But when you come now, we only have 4 minutes. So kindly come, make your remarks in about 4 minutes, and then you take your seat. Is that okay? Including Dr. Lillian. All right, so I'd like to get some remarks from APNI, from Rongo University, Maseno University, ICL, and Homerline. And at this juncture, I'll invite Dr. James Mutegi from APNI. After Dr. James, we'll have Professor Samuel Gudu, who is the Vice Chancellor of Rongo University. Then followed by Professor Peter Opala, who is a Senior Lecturer at Maseno University. Then after that, we'll have Dr. Lillian Mbuzia from ICL. And then finally, Mr. Joseph Alubaka, who is the CEO of Homeline. All of them have exactly 4 minutes. And then if one takes more than 4 minutes, then the next person has 3 minutes. So make sure whoever is ahead of you spends exactly 4 minutes. Karibu sana, Mr. James. Yeah.
Thank you so much. My name is James Motegi. I work for the African Plant Nutrition Institute here in Nairobi, and I'll be talking on behalf of the African Plant Nutrition Institute. The first thing I would want to note here is that we all realize that at independence, the population of Kenya was only 8 million. Right now, we are almost 54 million or more than that. And it's the same land area. The land area stands at the same size. But we've seen productivity continuing to go down, yet the farmers cannot shift, yet the farmers are using all the land that they have. The problem that we mainly have is that the places that actually are acidifying are the places that are the grain baskets of this country. And therefore, we continue to see acidification of the places that would actually be producing food that are be supporting this country. And we know that food security in the recent past has been the greatest catastrophe that Kenya has faced. We are running out of food in this country, actually. And in actual sense, we see it even during the politics. It's been used as a tool for many other things. Unfortunately, this food security is also coupled with increasing levels of poverty, is coupled with malnutrition, is coupled by poor health and other challenges. And the main driver of this is declining productivity. And one ththing that we know is that the yield gaps are continuing to increase, mainly driven by various factors, including soil acidification. Like we know, whereas we are capable of producing up to 10 tons of maize per hectare, we're actually producing at around 1 to 1.5 tons per hectare. For potatoes, we are capable of producing up to 25 to 30 tons per hectare, but we are stuck at between 7 and 10 tons per hectare. For common beans, we are capable of producing up to 4.5 tons per hectare. But we actually stuck at around 3.5 tons per hectare. So and we know that acidification is actually the main culprit. It's one of the main culprits of this low productivity, and it's expanding in the areas. It's expanding in the areas that are supposed to be producing more. The book that we are launching today is actually groundbreaking because it goes to show the solution to acidity that we are talking about. It goes to show the correlation between acidity and the low yield And with acidity problems, we know that with acidity problems, it doesn't matter what we do in terms of increasing fertilizer. And the fertilizer is the main investment of the government, is the main investment of the farmers in as far as production is concerned. We've seen a huge investment in subsidy program. Farmers are investing in a huge way in fertilizers. But like Morioki has said, but like my predecessor, Dr. Morioki has said, we know that even with the increasing fertilizer, if the acidity is high, most of those nutrients are actually fixed, and farmers are not able to realize the full potential of the fertilizers that they apply. We recently carried out a study of Kenya and Ethiopia, two countries that have continued to increase, two countries that are increasing the fertilizer use. But we realized that whereas in Ethiopia the yield has continued to increase, in Kenya the yield is actually stuck or even sometimes declined in certain regions because the acidification in these counties has continued to go up. In some areas where we never used to measure acidity, like let's say places like Nyandarua, places like Embu, places like Meru, we are now measuring acidity of from 4.5, 5.5, which is very high level of acidification, which is something that calls us to really get worried. So the book we are launching today provides materials that would probably be of great use by the policymakers, by extension workers, by various other people to provide the solution to support provision of solutions for the problems that we have in as far as acidity is concerned. I express my gratitude to all the organizers of this workshop. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Professor Gudu.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning once again. As you've heard, my name is Samuel Gudu. I work for Rongo University. I just want to read a very short speech, and then I'll say something I'll definitely keep within the 4 minutes, I hope so. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. May I take this opportunity to thank the organizers of this important occasion, the launch of soil acidity and liming handbook. I'm humbled as one of the authors to be given this opportunity to share with you my joy in launching the handbook. Soil acidity affects nutrients availability, microbial activity, as well as plant growth. Worldwide, and specifically in Kenya, soil acidity is a major constraint affecting agricultural productivity in subsistence and commercial farming, and significantly contributes to food and nutritional insecurity in this country. The handbook provides solutions that, when properly utilized, the farmers would realize enhanced agricultural productivity and socioeconomic improvement, including livelihoods. The handbook offers diversified approaches to the management of acid soils, such as the use of agricultural lime, organic materials, and resistant crops. We encourage the stakeholders, including farmers, students, researchers, entrepreneurs, to make full use of the handbook for improved management of acid soils and enhanced food security for Kenya. I'm grateful to those who provided knowledge and teamwork, financial and other resources for production of this handbook. Thank you, and God bless you. Allow me to take one more minute to say that I've worked in the acid soil problems from the plant point of view. As a plant breeder, I'm a geneticist and a plant breeder. And when we talk about Rongo University, the work we do in acid soils, I have Professor Peter Kisinyo. Are you in? Yes, Professor Peter Kisinyo is a soil scientist and a plant nutritionist, and we work with him. I've worked on soil acidity from 2004 when I was funded by the McKnight's Foundation in the US, and I've got a series of funds which I've utilized to produce crops, and we released varieties that are acid soil tolerant, of course, and we also did a lot of liming with Peter Kisinyo. We were working in that team with the late Professor Kalebo, and of course, Professor Otieno. We've produced a number of students, but I think my happiness is that we have produced plants which are tolerant and internationally recognized. When we started working in acid soils, we produced maize materials that are really tolerant. And in fact, when we compared our material, the Kenyan material we released with the Brazilian material, the Kenyan material, even up to date, has the highest level of aluminum tolerance. I think the Brazilian one is just slightly below it. And we've done the same with sorghum. And for sorghum, we released varieties. For maize, we were very close to releasing the varieties. And I think we have got very good material that we released that are still there, but we didn't reach registration level. I want to say that I'm so happy today, because when we were starting the work on aluminum tolerance, there were not many researchers for plant genetics and breeding, which today I can say, with God's grace, we have produced a number. We need a threshold to be able to fight together to enhance crop yield in acid soils. May God bless you.
Thank you, Professor. I'd like to invite Professor Peter Opala.
Good morning, everybody. As you've heard, I'm Peter Opala from Maseno University. I'm representing the Vice Chancellor, who, unfortunately, because of a busy schedule, is not able to come. But he has sent his greetings and wished as well as we launch this manual. Please allow me to say something about Maseno University. Maybe you've heard of it, but not very familiar with Maseno. We are based in Western Kenya, where this problem of acidity is widespread. Currently, we are the third largest university, the population about 30,000, offering various programs ranging from medicine, pharmacy, engineering, education, and many others. But of interest here is that we have a School of Agriculture where we have about 1,000 students. All these students, right from bachelor's, master's up to PhD, have to interact with soil because most of our crop production of food for food security is based on soils. And as you have heard, most of those soils are problematic, having acidity. So soil acidity is a major component of what we teach. It's a major topic that we teach to these students. So this manual will be very important to us in terms of providing material that can be used by most of the students. I'm privileged to have been one of the authors. So I had prior information of even before the launch, and I can report that I've been using for the last 2 years. I've been using some of this content, and it's very, very useful. Right from undergraduate, you can go up to PhD level. It's very useful. So you just tease out what is relevant for which category of students. So as the first speaker said, sometimes we produce information that just lies on the shelf, gathers dust, but this one will not. With a population of about 1,000 every year, we are assured of demand for this knowledge. And of course, other universities in Kenya offering the same programs also will find the manual very useful. We have also, just as my senior spoke, conducted some research on acidity. I've been working closely with Professor Kisinyo, and we have several publications on the same, where we have observed this decline in yields in Western Kenya, because our university, as I said, is based in Western Kenya, where this problem is very prevalent. And we try to come up with solutions, research solutions that can address these issues. So we have also graduated several students in soil sciences and agronomy, and also extension workers who interact with farmers to solve this problem. Lastly, I would like to thank the members of the group that we work with in terms of authorship. I had the opportunity to meet very many good colleagues, hardworking team, good collaboration, and I hope we can continue the same collaboration as we try to scale up these issues of soil acidity. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Professor Opala. Dr. Lillian Boothia.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Dr. Lillian from ICL Fertilizers, but today I'm here speaking to represent the fertilizer industry on the issues of liming, on a topic that is very dear to my heart, that I'm very passionate about. And I'm passionate about this because I come from Kitale. And for a long time, as I was growing up, we'd produce about 7 to 8 tons of maize very easily. And I watched as the yields went declining. And my question was, what was the problem? Luckily, I got into the field of soil science. And when I came back in 2015 from my studies, my aim was I needed to help with solving the issues. And one of the clear issues that came to mind, that was very obvious, was the issue of soil acidity. That soil acidity was very prevalent and that we needed to do something about it. And of course, the solution to soil acidity is liming, very clear. And that has always been my message. And I remember in 2018 when we had a conference on fertilizers where KFAT was born, I remember standing up, I think, together with Jeremy of Crop Nuts, and we said, this is not rocket science. What we need to do to be able to solve soil acidity is very clear. It is liming. And so this book today is a big win, or a first great step towards that journey. We clearly need to do liming. The book will not be of use if we do not actually take those steps and lime our soils. So I requested to just give a small presentation. Like everybody has said, unless we lime our soils, liming will actually solve half the problem. And then now we go to the other problems of regenerative agriculture, balanced fertilizations and all that. So what this book for me brings is a clarity on the causes of soil acidification. I believe there was that question on myths. I think there is lack of clarity in the masses on the causes of soil acidity. And unfortunately, DAP has been criminalized as the main cause of soil acidity. But is that true? I am not really sure. It is one part of that, of the causes of soil acidity, but it's not the main cause. I think the main problem for us is our soil management practices, especially because of the nutrient mining, where we've, because of lack of doing proper management of soil, crop nutrition and all that, we've had a lot of nutrient mining. This is a presentation that I usually make to farmers just to demonstrate to them what we've been doing to our soils over time and why it's really important for us to go back to doing the right management practices, especially with liming. Liming has to be the first key. So we have to give the right messaging. And I believe that this handbook brings out those issues of bringing the clarity on the main causes of acidification. Now, it's very clear for me, like I said, I come from Kitale. We only used to use one bag of fertilizer of DAP and one bag of CAN and would produce. But is that the main thing is we over time have depleted our soils. And if you look at the regions where soil pH, acidity is, it's the regions where we have high productivity, high rainfall, you have leaching. And because of high productivity, we are removing a lot of nutrients. So my main message is, let's try and give the right messaging so that this handbook becomes actually something that will help us towards the first steps of solving the main issue of our productivity, which is, I believe, soil acidity, and liming is the only solution. Now, for us in the fertilizer industry, liming is key. Like Mr. Muriuki said, we may sell all the fertilizers. Farmers may buy and use many fertilizers. But if the soil is acidic, the fertilizer use efficiency is not there. So we are essentially wasting farmers' money. So my call is, unless we address the liming issue first, and my call to the government would be, maybe would you consider, instead of maybe putting the funds towards subsidy of fertilizer, let's take the funds towards a national liming project. And this, I would propose this as one of the next steps that comes from this book, that if the government could take this book and use this to develop a 3 to 4 year liming program. Other countries are doing it. Rwanda is doing it, but they don't have the resources. I had the privilege of talking to the Ministry of Agriculture in Rwanda. They don't have the liming material. We have the liming material. So it is something that is very easy for us to do. Brazil has done it, so I believe we can be able to do. We have innovative solutions like Mr. Muriuki mentioned. For us in the industry, I believe we have a very vibrant industry that is giving very good solutions. I won't belabor on that point. Mr. Muriuki talked about the granulated lime and how that is being used. So I will not belabor on that point. I will finish by saying, let's work together for the benefit of our farmers. Let's lime our soils. That's the only solution to soil acidity.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Lillian, for that insightful presentation. I'd like to invite Mr. Joseph Alubaka, the CEO of Homerline, to come and make his presentation. Karibu sana. Let's give him a round of applause as he makes his way on stage.
Good morning. As said, my name is Joseph Alubaka from Homer Lime Company. Many a times people mistake us to be in Homer Bay, but we are in Kisumu County. I've had cases where people have gone to Homer Bay looking for us. If you ever want to come to us, come to Koru in Kisumu County. Homer Lime are producers of lime, which is of course very important for this occasion. We got over 65 million tons of lime on the ground, which at the rate we're mining, we expect to last for about 900 years, at which time none of us will be present. We've worked on lime with various stakeholders, including Gatsby and several others. A lot of demonstrations across Western Kenya with very positive results. In some cases, we've had yields grow or increase ×2. I did some demos in North Rift, and we were able to increase yield from 17 bags to 38 bags. We've had cases where in the third harvest, the crop has increased from 12 bags to 35 bags by just introducing lime into the equation. So I believe that this occasion is very important because the only way we can fight food insecurity is to increase our productivity. We've grown through these partnerships, we've been able to grow our networks. We've got about 38 agro dealers in Western Kenya who are stocking our products. I'm sure through radio talk shows and many other advertisements, we've been able to reach many farmers in the region. It's only that for the last over 10 years, our sales have only grown from about 3 tons per day to about 10 tons per day of this product. And we believe that still is a bigger chance of having this to grow because the farmlands in this country are huge and most of it are acidic. One thing that we have realized, I know that my colleagues have mentioned about lime in granules. We are going into lime granulation. We got the plant, which we are assembling. But again, from the demonstrations we have carried out across Western Kenya, we believe that lime is not really very effective in granule form. One is that we are increasing the cost of that lime by turning it into granules. And where lime has been applied across the fields, worked in the soil, we have seen the benefits accrue over 4 or 5 years because of the residual effect in lime. So we really think that, yes, we can go into granulation, it's a good thing, but that will be good for maintenance. But to correct the soil acidity, we still have to take lime in powder form, spread it across the field and work it in the soil to bring the pH up because you are conditioning the entire soils. Something else I wanted to mention is, of course, during our demonstrations and field activities, we have a few challenges that still need to be addressed. And I hope that in this launch, we'll have to address it for the future generations, for future farmers. Is that one, is that government has no very clear policy on soil health management. I think that should come out strongly from the government because the government is a bigger voice, we are a smaller voice. So if they speak about it, people tend to adopt much easier than when we in the private sector speak about soil acidity. So we really want to hear from the government side that yes, in their policy, liming or soil health management is a priority. In that way, then adoption becomes much easier. Now, another challenge is farmers are not willing to increase into their inputs line because already the available inputs are very expensive. So telling a farmer to put in what they put in normally and then also bring in lime adds into their cost. As much as lime is a very cheap product, but then still it increases the cost to the farmer. So that makes it difficult for farmers to adopt liming. Number 2 is about tradition. Farmers, people are used to what they've been getting. I remember one day I went to my parents' home and to meet my grandmother. And they're used to getting 10 bags of maize per acre. So when you tell them you want them to go to 20 or 30 bags, they don't understand you because to them, 10 bags is more than enough. So we really need to really work on tradition, on what people are used to doing so that we can change that. Of course, we got opportunities here. We know that this handbook will help us to market lime and increase productivity. But all of us must be partners to this. We must fight towards getting this done so that we are able to be food secure in 2030. I know there's a lot of talk of Vision 2030, industrialization, but if there's no food in our granaries, there's no food in our stomachs, I think it is a pipe dream. So we got to, all of us fight together. We as a company, we have the raw material, we have the lime, that is available, as I mentioned, for 900 years. Even if we double our consumption, we can go for 450 years. Again, none of us will be present. So thank you so very much. As I say, that this handbook is very important for us because then we can scale up the awareness creation on lime and use of lime for food security. Asanteni sana. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Let's give him a better round of applause.
I've just been showing some photos. You could see, I don't know if it is still there. Sorry? So some photos there. You can see that there is a farm that has been limed and unlimed plots. You can see a clear difference where lime has been applied and where lime has not been applied. Very clear difference. And this across Western Kenya. We have worked with about 19, I think most of the counties in Western Kenya. If you go to the next page, you can see a farmer increasing from 15 to 43 bags, 13 to 22 bags. You can see 15 to 18, 12 to 24. In fact, in the third crop, the last farmer was able to go to 35 bags. So that's what lime can do with the farmer using the normal practice. Asanteni sana. Thank you.
I mean, when you have a business that is sustainable for 900 years, you're very confident you even check my papers. Thank you so much. So let's give a round of applause to the speakers we've had. Thank you so much, Dr. Mutegi, Professor Gudu, Professor Opala, Dr. Mbudia, and Mr. Alubaka for those very good remarks. At this juncture, I'd like to acknowledge a few people who are here with us, and I'd like to start with Dr. Gilbert Mothe. He's the Director of Agribusiness. Dr. Gilbert, just wave. Where's Dr. Let's give him a round of applause. Yeah, this is the most important table, and that's where I am, so you can imagine. I also would like to acknowledge Henry Kinyua, who is the Presidential Economic Transformation Secretariat. Henry, wherever you are, just wave. So that is the guy, if you want to reach the president tonight, that is the man we need to talk to. Like, I have a small proposal about those counter suits. Yeah, so I'll see you. And then lastly, I'd like to acknowledge Dr. Boniface Kaberia from the CS office. Dr. Kaberia, let's give him a round of applause. Yes, that is this. If you want to see the CS tonight, that is the gentleman to see. So at this juncture, I want us now to go to the next presentation, and I'd like to invite Mr. Michael Kamau. And for those people who do not know Mr. Michael Kamau, he is an experienced senior project management specialist with over 20 years of experience, though he looks younger than that, in public and private sector and also non-profit sectors, with expertise in strategic thinking, sustainable market transformation, and inclusive agricultural growth. He is a very good communicator, so he could easily be a pastor. Anything could happen. And also he's currently working as the Deputy Director of Agricultural Inputs at Gatsby, Africa. So let's give a round of applause to Mr. Kamau. So ideally what Mr. Kamau will be doing is that he will give us a journey to build a solid foundation in agriculture lime sector in Kenya, and that is by a case study of Gatsby, Africa. Karibu sana.
Thank you, Michael. So first of all is to welcome you all in this meeting. It's an honor as Gatsby Africa. I think we've been walking the journey in the lime sector for the past almost 8 years. And just to give you who we are as Gatsby Africa, we are an organization committed to sector transformation and helping change lives for the better in the East Africa. And that's why we invested in the lime sector and promoting the lime sector. How do we do that? First of all, we look at how can we be able to accelerate inclusive and resilient economic growth. And one of the sector that we've worked on and invested in is in agriculture lime. When we started this journey way back in 2015, one thing that we first of all did was more in how do we change, how do we did a bit of analysis in the lime sector. If I can take you back to 2014, that's when we had already done the maize suitability study by Carroll. And it came out that most of the soils in the high potential or areas were acidic. And one thing that came out was that we needed to use appropriate fertilizers. The other one, we needed to lime our soils. But when you looked at the lime industry then, is that you find that there was actually not quite, it was actually insufficient investment by the private sector. What do I mean that? In terms of investing in awareness creation, in terms of investment in getting appropriate products into the market. The other one was that because of the fragmented demand at the smallholder farmer, then it became quite expensive, in particular the last mile. Imagine a farmer going for 40 kilometers or 50 kilometers to buy lime, and he needs a few bags of lime. Then that becomes quite a bit expensive. The other one was more in terms of insufficient information on the product and the solution that were there. And also most farmers didn't realize that they had an issue of soil acidity. Actually, the issue, I remember going to Eldoret, and you find that most farmers were trying to use 2 times the fertilizer that they were using, but with that, they were still not achieving the desired yield. They were not getting yield increase. It was either stagnating or depleting. The other part was that it was limited in terms of the public investment. And when you think about that, is that we had heavily invested in terms of the fertilizer promotion, but we had limited in terms of investment in the private, in the promotion of soil amendment practices. When you look at the demand side, then we had a lot of issues. Farmers didn't have information on soil health management practices. They didn't know how to manage their soil to be able to correct in terms of the soil acidity. There was also inadequate flow of information. There was a lot of information. I think Professor Good said they started research way back in 2004. The like of arable, Kanyanchua and all that, they were way before that from Carroll. And when we looked at the amount of literature that was held by institution, both the universities, Carroll, and other research institutes, it was quite massive, a lot of information on soil acidity. But when it came to the farmer level, they didn't know what was happening at that level. And then we started, and the way we started working on that journey was that we did the analysis, and we tried to, how can we create awareness at the farmer level to be able to bridge that gap in terms of the information? How do we improve our availability and also access of lime? And how do we create those strategic partnerships? And that's why we are here today, because in 2018, between IFDC, Kenya Market Trust then, Gatsby Africa, IPNI, and several other organizations, we came together and we were able to establish Kenya Fertilizer Platform. And through that, we were able to discuss a lot of issues pertaining to soil health, including lime. And that's where we started the journey in terms of the development of the soil liming handbook. Because we had all this information, there was a lot of information, and we were presenters in that forum. Eslaba, Dr. Zingore from IPNI, we had presentation on lime, but the question that kept on coming in, why is awareness still that low? We were able to bridge that gap, and if we went into our website, you can be able to see the two studies that we did then. We had the area impact study, we had the market and economic feasibility study. And what we were trying to establish is why was awareness growing, because we had moved it from the work that we had done over those years from less than 80% to around 55 by 2018, 2019. But the adoption was still quite low. And that's why we found that for the farmer to be able to access lime, then it needed to be in a form that is acceptable to the farmers. The other one was in terms of availability and access. You'll find that there was a lot of uncoordinated, for lack of a better word, in the system where people could try to intervene, but what was happening is that they were delivering lime to the farmer, but we were not establishing the commercial distribution channel. And that became a challenge because if the farmer gets lime today and another farmer requires lime tomorrow, Homa Lime, Chiromo, and all the other suppliers are not able to get that ring because somebody bought on their behalf of the farmer. So Michael became the customer while I was giving somebody else the lime. So there's no that commercial. And that's why we are trying also to be able to establish the access. If I can talk a little bit in terms of what has been the accomplishment in our program to date. One is that we've seen in terms of the formation of the public-private dialogue that has happened through the KFAT. And through that, what we've been trying to see is how do we be able to build adoptive capacity for us to be able to achieve the systemic changes that we desire, the transformation agenda that we talk about. And through KFAT, we've been able to work on these, the soil acidity and liming handbook, which was trying to synthesize all the information that we have in the hundreds of scientific papers outside there to have a standardized information that we can be able to share to the farmers. Again, still under that platform, through KEBS, we've been able to discuss in terms of how do we review the liming standards so that we can be able to include the innovation that are coming in. We've talked about granulated lime, the other forms of lime that was not captured in the standard. And the good news is that that work is progressing very well. Last week, there was a discussion about that, and lime agenda was in the table when we were talking about harmonization of East African standard. And with that kind of improvement, then we were able to create supportive environment for the investors that are coming in. The other one is that we've seen a lot of commitment in terms of the government. And that is in terms of the investment that is coming into the lime, the agenda that is being discussed, because other than the fertilizer, you'll find that in the government agenda currently, lime features, which is a plus, because it's one of the ways that we could be able to improve productivity. In terms of private sector investment, currently we have 5 companies that have invested in lime granulation. That is a plus. When we were doing the market and economic feasibility study at that time, what we had was that there was granulated lime in the market, mostly imported lime, and mostly accessed through mostly the large-scale farmer. And to make that environment more inclusive and to be able to reach the smallholder farmer, I think that has been a plus for the companies that have invested in the lime granulation in the country. And the answer to that is yes, there's room for powder lime if you want to do the total correction. That one we agree. But we've seen that despite the awareness level growing from less than 8% when we started to almost 60%, the farmer was still not using the product. And when we did the market and economic feasibility study, over 70% of the farmer, if you could go and refer to that research, that we did then a few years ago were saying that they want lime in another form. And most of them were saying in a form that is similar to the fertilizer, that's granulated lime. A small percentage was saying they would like it more in liquid form. And then the others were comfortable. I think about 20% plus were comfortable with lime the way it was. So that's a plus for us to see that investment. And the investment that is coming from the private sector is not only in terms of lime granulation. They are already recruiting and they are investing in promotion at the farmer level. So meaning that they are reaching out the farmer, they're able also to develop that distribution chain. How have we been able to walk through that journey? We've actively been able to conduct research. So it's more of evidence-based. And also we've been able to get the partnership like what we are having today. We have all these organizations that have come together to partner to be able to push the liming agenda ahead. So one is that we've kept on learning. When we started, we had 3 agendas. How do we improve awareness? How can we be able to increase access and availability at the farmer level? Also, we had an agenda in terms of the promoting soil testing. But what we found is that soil testing was lagging way behind the actual use of lime, such that most of the farmers that were adopting liming were not actually testing the soil. And that's why we did more in terms of analysis, and we find that the farmers, precisely almost over 70% require lime in a different form. And that was what we captured. And then we started, and I thank most of the team here because they participated when we launched the market and economic feasibility study on granulated lime in Kenya. So far, if you think through the number of farmers we've reached over that period of time, they might look not so many farmers, considering that we have so many farmers. I think we have over 3 million plus that could benefit from this, but we've been able to reach to slightly over 150,000 farmers through lime, be it powdered lime, be it granulated lime. And on average, the farmers we've seen, they have been able to increase their yield by plus 20%. What happened is that the response to lime is also dependent in terms of the crop itself, the pH that you're starting at, and also the variety. And a good example is that cereals seem to be quite well, and they are responding well. That is maize, wheat, from the literature, from what we've seen, sugarcane was responding quite very well. Rice across Moya, it's responding quite very well to liming. Coffee is responding quite well. From the empirical studies that we've reviewed, and I think you'll be able to see that in the handbook when you get the copies, is that beans had an issue because some were not responding to liming, and others crops. In terms of the variety, there was actually a difference in terms of the variety. Maybe just to be able to conclude is that if we had sorry for that. If we need to get a well-coordinated strategy to be able to move the liming agenda ahead. It cannot be in silos. We cannot do intervention. We need to look at the whole market system to be able to unlock that. Then the other part is that we are able to build. We'll be able to share the case study to all the online attendees and also those who are in physical. Maybe later we'll be able to send that. Is that we can be able to build on the lessons that we have learned through the case study by the work that Gatsby Africa has been able to do to be able to improve the food. It has been an honor to walk that journey. We've learned a lot. We've made a lot of friends. in the liming work, and we'll continue exploring that area. So thank you, and it's great. Thank you for that.
All right, let's give Michael a better round of applause. All right, thank you so much. I see the online attendants, or rather the virtual attendees, are quite engaged in the chat. I mean, a lot of questions are ongoing, and I also see Dr. Esther Gikonyo helping us moderate that. A number of answers I have seen there. I have noted 3 questions just before I invite my next speaker. I have noted 3 questions, and if you'll allow me, I'll just want to have probably 3 brief answers from you guys. So if you can have a roaming mic, that would be lovely. The first question is, how can the book get to smallholder farmers? How can the book get to smallholder farmers? You guys think about that. I'll probably leave that to Dr. Esilaba to probably mention something on it. And then number 2, how can that information be synthesized so that the smallholder understands? How can the information in the book be synthesized? Ideally, this is an extension question. How will the information from that book be used by the smallholder farmers to get to it? I think that's also a question that I will leave open. We will probably come back to it later. And then lastly, there's a lot of conversation ongoing about lime microdosing. So that's another question that I'd like you guys to think about. Once Dr. Esilaba is done, we will probably have about 10 minutes to try and see how to respond to that. Is that okay? Is that okay? All right, so I'd like to invite my next speaker. I probably have already alluded to it, and I'd just like to give him the introduction. That is Dr. Anthony Esilaba, or Esilaba. Dr. Esilaba is, he sent me a 3-page bio. So, I mean, get ready. Dr. Esilaba is, even my phone has refused to open. That is how big that bio is. When you start being a researcher as early. So Dr. Esilaba is a soil scientist and is currently as an independent consultant. He's a retired public service officer way back in 2021. He has more than 35 years experience as a research scientist in land and water management and agroforestry, with emphasis on integrated soil fertility management and climate smart agriculture. All right. And he has published more than 25 book chapters, 49 papers in referred journals, and more than 101 papers, abstracts, and posters in published conference proceedings. He has supervised MSc and PhD students at the University of Nairobi and Egerton University, and he has been a trainer, consultant for ICRAF, AGRA, ASARECA, and the International Water Management Institute. And recently he was the chairman of Soil Science Society of East Africa, Kenyan chapter from 2011 to 2019. So this should be a protected member of our society. Bwana Kinywa, talk to Mudos to protect this man. He's a national treasure. So at this juncture, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like you to join me in welcoming on stage one of the authors of this book, Dr. Anthony Esilaba, to make his presentation. Let's give him a round of applause. So Dr. Esilaba, I know you also have a heart of talking for quite a while, so I'll give you exactly 30 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. So I'll give this presentation. I hope you're screening it, or I saw it. Okay. So I'm here standing on behalf of a group of contributors and co-authors. There are many. There are 19 of them. I know 13 are here today. You can lift up your hands. You can see how many we are. And this work took us quite a bit of time to get to where we are. So please acknowledge my co-authors, they are here. And when I finish my presentation, some of the questions you asked, they'll be able to answer very comfortably if they don't get answered during my presentation, the course of the presentation. Now, my encounter, I'll just give you a brief history where I got into soil acidity. For those of you who may wonder how I came to be into this. But when I was doing my MSc, one of the first people who supervised me was Dr. Henry Sally, and we were two students. One was me doing soil sulfur, and there was a Mr. Naumanya from Uganda. Dr. Sally was also from Uganda, who was one of the first people to publish or to do his MSc on soil acidity, comparing different methods. So it goes as far back as 1979, my encounter with soil acidity. Thank you. Now, I'll briefly go through the presentation next. Hope I can do that. I'll give a presentation outline, the background, the objectives of the whole book, specific objectives, the book chapters. There are about 9 book chapters, so each covers different areas. So there's a bit of introduction again to the whole book. Then the first is causes of soil acidity, effects of soil acidity. Sorry, don't know if this thing is working. Can you move to the next? Then we look at soil sampling, management of soil acidity in Kenya. We'll look at liming acidic agricultural soils, crop responses to liming acid soils in Kenya, the lime supply chain, analysis and policy considerations, and then finally we'll give some recommendations and the way forward. That may generate a few discussions from some of you key stakeholders who are here, like it did in 2018, when I actually did my first presentation during the IFDC meeting at KICC, which has been published now. It's available from the Afro Journal. We've actually published about 3 papers apart from this book in conference proceedings. They are also available apart from this book. In those papers, they deal with the subject in a different way and for different reasons. Next. So the background has been covered quite a bit. Maybe you can turn on the background. I don't see this thing moving. No, I don't think we have the same presentation. Go back a bit. Yeah, that's it. Now, according to the agriculture sector transformation growth strategy, over 18 million Kenyans earn an income from agriculture. And the country benefits from foreign exchange through agriculture. This cannot be overemphasized. However, soil acidity is one of the major constraints to crop production. There are declining yields pose a serious threat to food production, and soil health remains a key factor in increasing and sustaining crop yields. Farmers require knowledge on soil acidity and its management to maximize agricultural productivity. Please, you have to keep up with me because I can't move that for you. Okay? Not working. Now, being cognizant of the importance of having the right information, the State Department of Crop Development and Agriculture research institutions, as we've been told, universities and private sector, and other development partners sought to produce this handbook through the Kenya Fertilizer Roundtable that has been mentioned by Kamau and the others, as a reference source for soil acidity and liming information in the country. That goes back to 2018, 2019, when we met. Now, the overall objective is to increase food security, nutrition, and poverty reduction by promoting appropriate use of liming technologies, innovations, and management practices among small-scale farmers in Kenya. Now, there are other objectives which are very specific. The first is to standardize and harmonize soil acidity and liming knowledge, information, and technologies by serving as a reference point for key stakeholders. Then to improve access to soil acidity and liming information for key stakeholders, that is policymakers, extension staff, input suppliers, researchers, and farmers, among others. Now, we need to propose policies and strategies designed to ameliorate the effects of soil acidity on agriculture production. Then we inform policy that will enhance the profitability of the agricultural lime supply and value chain. Then draw attention to critical issues limiting adoption among lime users that need to be addressed. Now, the book chapters are 9, and some of the authors we subdivided. We had different authors dealing with different chapters to be able to enable us to accomplish this task. Then harmonizing these was a big challenge. Different institutions, different organizations, but we've managed to succeed. We look at the first chapter, it goes into introduction, which provides a brief background to soil acidity and its prevalence in the country. Then there's chapter 2 on the causes of soil acidity. It elaborates on the anthropogenic and natural causes of soil acidity. Chapter 3 looks at the effects of soil acidity on crop production. It discusses the effects of soil acidity on soil health and crop yield. Chapter 4 goes to soil sampling, testing and interpretation, and delves more into soil sampling and how to determine the acidity levels and liming rates. Chapter 5 looks at the management of soil acidity in Kenya. It elaborates on the different management practices to address soil acidity. Chapter 6 looks at liming acidic agricultural soils and provides a detailed information on how to effectively manage acidic soils through liming to make them more profitable. Chapter 7 looks at crop responses to liming acidic soils in Kenya. It elaborates different crop responses to liming in Kenya. Then chapter 8 is the lime supply chain analysis and policy considerations. It describes an ideal supply value chain for agriculture lime and policy consideration. We've come up with some kind of graphical presentation of that. Then finally, the recommendations and the way forward. We have about 7 to 9 recommendations and the next steps. So as most people have said, 13% of Kenyan soils are acidic. It translates to approximately, that's the introduction, about 63% of Kenya's arable land. These soils are distributed widely in Kenya, mainly in Western Kenya, Central Kenya, a bit of Upper Eastern and Lower Eastern and coast. I'll show you a picture of that. It covers over 1 million hectares under maize, legumes, tea, coffee, cultivated over 5 million smallholder farmers. So that's a picture graphically of the map, showing the areas in red. You can see that I provided 2 of the pictures, but in the book you'll find 1. So it's the red areas. Unfortunately, I can't do that from here. It's supposed to pinpoint the areas where the acidity, yes, is doing there with that. The Western Kenya, you can see that, where it's very red. Central Kenya, bit of Upper Eastern and Lower Eastern, though limited. And then the coastal strip. There are quite a number of areas that have soil acidity. Now, we've had a bit of a problem convincing some of our colleagues from abroad that Kenya has a soil acidity problem, but some of them are here. I hope this book will help them understand that we have that problem. What are the main causes of soil acidity? They are mainly natural and anthropogenic processes. The primary soil acidity involves the process of soil formation and shorter-term biogeochemical processes. Secondary soil acidity is the consequence of agronomic practices. The causes of also soil acidity include parent material, the indigenous, or whatever it is, the leaching of bases by heavy rainfall, organic matter decay, uptake of nutrients by plants and plant removal, continuous application of acidifying fertilizers, which is very popular here, soil erosion, acid sulfate soils, acid rain, plant roots, and microbial respiration. How does this affect? That's chapter 3. Acid soil infertility is a complex interaction of several growth limiting factors. Now, plant growth and yield in acid soils may be restricted by deficiencies of major nutrients such as calcium, magnesium, phosphorus, molybdenum, and toxicities of aluminum and manganese and hydrogen ions, which adversely affect plant physiological processes. Therefore, in chapter 4, we go into soil testing, which we think is the most important starting point. and interpretation of the soil testing. Soil testing is an important first step in soil fertility and acidity management. Now, it offers information on soil fertility and acidity conditions of the soils within a field, which can be used to make recommendations for fertilizer, organic matter, and lime application. Now, a reliable soil test involves soil sample collection, laboratory analysis, interpretation of results, and fertilizer or management recommendations. This chapter basically outlines the basic agronomic soil sampling, common soil acidity determination methods, and simplified interpretation of the results. The details are in the book, so I'm just giving you a summary. You don't have to make notes. If some of you are making notes, you have all these in the book. Now, how do we manage the soil acidity? There are several strategies of how to manage that have been documented, not only in Kenya, but in sub-Saharan Africa. It includes the addition of liming materials, use of organic materials, judicious choice and application of fertilizers, use of rock phosphates, combining lime with organic materials and inorganic fertilizers, and of course, like Professor Good said, growing acid-tolerant crop species and varieties. There are newer technologies and areas that have come up. These days, they are using biochar. It's not discovered in this book, but it's in the other papers. Even I came across, for the foresters who are here, I was impressed that some forest trees can also control soil acidity. So we didn't delve into the details. For those who have students, you can go ahead and do that. Liming acidic agricultural soils, the importance of liming. We look at the liming materials that are available. I'm not going to display them here, they're in the book, and how they react to lime. And of course, the determination of soil lime requirements. There are many methods, as I mentioned to you. My first encounter was in the late 70s and early 80s, where there are published results. There's even a thesis to that effect. The latest I've seen recently has been done by JKUAT University, by somebody in 2005 or something like that. Now, there are factors affecting lime requirements are also given, how liming in Kenya is done, and how to improve the efficiency of lime, including the improving usability, environment, and economic attributes of lime, and adoption of lime application in Kenya, which you are told is about 8%. Then next, you can see some pictures that we could get on a really nasty bad plot control with no lime for maize performance in unlimed. Then where you lime, you can see the difference with Dr. Mbakaya now there. And also in sugarcane in Western Kenya, Dr. Mbakaya did a lot of work with Agra in Western Kenya. They did quite a number of trials in Western Kenya with Agra. Some results are available for those who want to look at them. But generally, everybody knows how liming affects NPK, micronutrient availability, how it stimulates biological activity in soils and root systems, how it improves legume by BNF, biological nitrogen fixation, and reduces the possibility of manganese and aluminum toxicity, how it improves physical conditions, better structure, better drought tolerant, and also improves palatability of forages, and provides an inexpensive source of calcium and magnesium when these are deficient. Now, we really looked at very many papers on crop responses to liming acid soils in Kenya. Dr. Esther, some of my colleagues here like Kisinyo, Obala, Gudu, and all these have published papers. So if you want to hear everything, you'll hear it right from the horse's mouth, not from me. So basically, lime must be applied with other nutrients, particularly macronutrients, NP, NPK, fertilizers, which are usually the most limiting on smallholder farms. Most sites that were responsive were low in pH and high in exchangeable acidity or aluminum saturation. Non-responsive sites had generally high pH greater than 5.5. So you need low pH soils to be able to get a response. The range of responses was, according to the data, up to over 500% increase I think Alubaka gave you some figures on yield in terms of bags, but this is what we calculated from research. It goes up to 500%. And it varies among crops, within varieties, and between soils. So empirical studies carried out in Kenya over the past 2 decades have provided some lime requirement and crop response information for Kenya. However, there are details of other crops and soils still need to be studied. They focus more on cereal legumes. There are other crops that may not have been covered. It's mainly maize I've seen and some legumes. Sugarcane has come in late. Others like coffee, tea may not be well covered. And we need to look at other aspects of crop response, such as quality and interaction among other all inputs. Now, the supply chain, this was the biggest chapter 8, analysis and policy considerations. For the extension people and the socioeconomists, these are very good chapter you need to go through. It gives us all the people working on lime sector in Kenya and how they relate to each other. We do not have a fully developed supply chain in Kenya, we know that. And the policy considerations have not been extensively evaluated, shared, and exploited. So we're still in the development stages, although other people think we are a bit ahead of our neighboring countries. We need to look at the market overview, market drivers, supply chain analysis, and market challenges, constraints needed to be studied. We need a comprehensive policy, as somebody mentioned, legal and regulatory framework that lead to increased use of ag lime. We need to develop this and encourage local manufacturing, distribution, and utilization. So there is I think you're seeing that graphic or whatever representation done by our socioeconomists and the team, including Dr. Nyongesa here and Kamau and the team. Some are not here, like Frida and Wanyama. So the whole chapter deals with a bit of introduction, the materials in the Kenyan market, the policies and laws regulating and governing ag lime, with a SWOT analysis on ag lime and value chain actors. Please look through these, give us some recommendations. If we have room to improve on these chapters, we may be able to do that just in a few days. So finally, I come to the issue of recommendations and the way forward. There are quite a number. I may not go to all the details, but we need to develop a national agenda on how to rehabilitate acidic soils. We need some higher investment by both public and private sectors in awareness, creation, and investment in nationwide platforms and funding opportunities in Kenya. The national and county government should create an enabling environment for development and growth of lime subsector now that we have a devolved system. We need supportive lime sector strategies, policies, regulation to be developed and accelerate awareness of soil acidity and its effects on productivity. We also need to develop soil testing and analysis for infrastructure to enhance soil health. We need to create awareness and support. There's limited awareness, we know that, and access to lime, insufficient information on available products, weak collaboration between value chain actors, including manufacturers, distributors, and stockists. We need to coordinate efforts to increase soil acidity and liming awareness. The public and private sector extension services that facilitate farm awareness should be enhanced. And we need to develop extension manuals. I remember that question, for field officers who are directly involved in training farmers on appropriate lime utilization. So I'm answering some of the questions people had asked. We need simplified liming information packs should be similarly be developed for farmers to get the full benefit of liming. Private companies may also be encouraged to develop manuals specific to their products. I hope you get that. Information on the 4R, stewardship, which is APNI's main selling point, APNI. That is the source, rate, timing, and placement methods of fertilizers is also applicable to lime, to increase lime adoption. We need financing, offering credit facilities to farmers for lime procurement, distribution, and use. The management practices are known. There are several. I won't repeat because I had mentioned them earlier, including fertilizers. I even went further and talked about things that Kenya has not done much research. But my colleagues convinced me to remove that from the manual. But I believe it will be done, and people will go ahead and do it. There's a lot to do with biochar and other areas that need to be worked on. It may not appear here, so we didn't forget it. But we haven't done much. Ethiopians have done a lot of that, and I reviewed a lot of that research. Then with agroforestry trees, the only sample we had was from Ghana. It's unfortunate, but we know we've done a lot of agroforestry work in Kenya with my colleagues, some in Rongo University, the first agroforesters, Dr. Daniel Nyamai, those who are familiar from Rongo University. You can pick up, I know he's listening. He should be online. Yeah, we've worked with him a lot since the early 90s on agroforestry trees. Now we need to develop manuals for laboratory and field methods for lime requirements. That answers a few questions. There's need for more capacity in determining lime requirements and recommendations. We need to harmonize and standardize soil test methods across accredited laboratories to ensure quality and reliable data on soil acidity, determination, and lime recommendation. So we need also to have simple tests and recommendation procedures for more precise laboratory procedures and lime recommendation based on soil test results. And we need more laboratories to perform tests and offer interpretation of lime recommendation. They need capacity building also through training in some quality assurance programs to ensure data credibility and farmer confidence. IFDC is here, APNI is here, CIMIT is here. These are areas you can look at in the region, not only just Kenya. We need more funding in research, specifically on lime. Generally, research is not well funded, so CARO is here, my colleagues from CARO. Sometimes we have to look for funds, but these funds are not easy coming. Mr. Mude, you people from Extension are aware. Sometimes when we are doing research, people think we are up in the clouds and they are somewhere else. I have had that problem. People even go as far as saying, we don't see what you have done. And we have published over 50 papers and somebody's telling you, we don't see what you have done. Thank you. We need an increase in budgetary allocation. It's imperative for supporting agricultural research. We looked at different liming materials that are already available. There is also this lime granulation, which Murioki talked about. I won't go into that, but we need to do a bit more of research on that. Now, I'm about to finish. I had many slides, but I'm sure I have taken less time than is required. Supply chain, there is need to develop some efficient and sustainable lime delivery system. We need to do some ex-ante assessment of the economic benefits of liming. We need to do some cost-benefit analysis on a national scale. And we need to do many economic analyses that I can't tell you as a soil scientist, and policy issues that need to be worked on. So I would like to finally acknowledge CARO for starting us off, Gatsby Africa through Kenya Market Trust for providing some funding, especially when I had left CARO, and we had to continue with this work. The European Union and IFAD under the Kenya Cereals Enhancement Project and Climate Resilience Program in the ministry. That's where we started. We did the first kind of manual, but this is now a handbook, which is an advanced version of it. The national universities generally, but specifically Rongo University, Maseno University, and Pwani University, their staff, they gave them staff time. They were able to work with us. And they all had covered different regions in the country, where Pwani University was covering the coast, Rongo University was covering, and Maseno in the Western Kenya. And finally, APNI for making sure we keep on our toes. Thank you very much for your attention.
All right, let's give Dr. Isilaba a better round of applause. I think what he has done is that he's given us a very high-level summary of the book, one chapter to the next, and he's done that in a record 25 minutes. Thank you so much for saving us some time. All right, so as I mentioned earlier, our virtual attendees are quite animatic in the chat. There's a lot of conversations ongoing, a lot of questions, and I wanted to engage the rest of us now for a second on some of the questions that they've asked. How can the book, I think we'll start with that. If we can have a roaming mic, that would be lovely. How can the book get to smallholder farmers? I think I asked this question earlier. We'd just like to hear what is the distribution plan for how the book will get to smallholder farmers. Any person who can answer? Thanks, Mike.
Thank you. First of all, the book will be open access, so anyone can be able to access the book. But when you consider the smallholder farmers, the aspiration of the authors of the book was that we are going to synthesize that further into simpler, practical manuals that the farmers can use, and also the extension workers to give the information to the farmers. So that's work in progress. But one thing is that the book is open access. Yeah, it's open access to everyone.
All right, so do we have any organization or a representative from the extension companies or extension or organization working in the extension space? All right, just raise up your hand. So we are depending on you guys to do that, to distribute it. Anyone wants to say something? Sure, let me give you a chance. You go.
Hi, everyone. My name is David Msioki. I work with FIPS Africa, and through different projects, I understand that you've been able to train around 30,000 farmers in Western Kenya on soil pH and testing, and we've been able to use the handheld, which is instantaneous pH testing tool among 20,000 farmers, and we've been trying to do some soil maps. And therefore, this handbook will also come in handy to be able to be used to cascade the trainings, working with the extension service providers, including the county government, to be able to train more farmers. So yeah, we are available for discussion and how to collaborate together to get this out.
Asante. Professor at the back there has feedback. I think those are the only ones I will allow for now. Professor, I know you have a lot to say. I'll give you exactly 39 seconds.
Thank you very much. Rongo University has an elaborate extension and community service department section in research and extension that in Western Kenya region, not only in Western Kenya region, but we are working with in many parts of this country with our collaborators. So we'll be able to distribute this book as one of our mandates. The other thing I would like to say that the VC didn't mention is the issue that we have a well-elaborate soil testing laboratory, one of the best in Western Kenya region or in the whole country, soil, water, and environmental issues testing laboratory that with the experience we have, we are able actually to test the soils. So we are already receiving soils from farmers and any other person that we want to test the soils can come to Rongo University. We'll do it at affordable costs. Thank you.
Okay. I think you should be the marketing manager of Rongo University. Professor right here, consider that. All right, so Mr. Oseko is here. Probably, Mr. Oseko, you could just throw in a few words. I know I've thrown you under the bus. I have been sent. You don't want to say? All right, so I wanted to get the government approach to it. All right, so the second question that I'd like us to discuss is about granulation. I think this is a conversation that was started by Mr. Murioki. It looks like it's a hot topic right now. So the first question is, which 5 companies are granulating lime in Kenya currently? Are we able to probably name a few so that people could reach out to them? I don't know who will probably answer this question. Anyone from the private sector? Which 5 companies or which companies are granulating lime in Kenya right now? Mr. Murioki, please. He's here. Right.
just allow me to just mention what I know.
Yes.
The first one was river mining, and now it has changed to Shiromo fertilizers.
Uh-huh.
That started way back, I think, early 90s.
Okay.
Now we have, so where they moved to another company, but where they left also, they are still graduating. It's called Maisha Fertilizers,
Uh-huh.
the second one. And the other one I know is Fat Plant East Africa.
Mhm.
It started last year.
Yeah.
So I think, I don't know about, someone mentioned about 5. Who are the other 2? L1 Kenya Limited,
Okay.
the other one. So the other one, they will be the 5th one. Which one is that? They do it here? They don't do it here. The other which is coming on stream is the Homeline company. They're just bringing the equipment. Eh?
Yeah.
So as far as I'm concerned, there are 4.
With
There are 3 in
yes.
operation
Uh-huh.
and 1 on the way.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So, and another question connected to that is, where can farmers buy the granulated fertilizer? Yes, Lillian. Just use the, yeah.
Granulated lime is currently available with the agro dealers.
Okay.
So they go to any agro dealers, they'll be able to get the granulated lime.
Right.
Can I answer another question in anticipation? You are talking about microdosing.
Are you reading my mind? All right, go ahead.
So on microdosing, it's a good idea. And also the granulated lime is a good idea that comes to address also the issue of microdosing. But to me, granulated lime is more like a Band-Aid. Farmers are buying, and we've done, a lot of marketing has been done on granulated fertilizers. They're accepting them because it's easy to use. You need maybe a 50 kilogram bag. But the challenge with that, you have to use it every year and every year. It also comes as a solution to, if you want to do broadcasting, it's more efficient applied as a broadcast. Okay. So I think that would be the best way to go, is to take granulated lime, which is easier to use, less cumbersome.
Yeah.
And the only way I see this happening is if the national government takes this as a project of doing liming to the affected areas.
If the national government with Mr. Oseko takes it up, right?
Mr. Oseko, and I think Henry is also here.
All right, and of course Henry is the closest to the president. So the national government, Mr. Henry, could help really with this bit. Now, a last question that is connected to what Dr. Mbuthi has just mentioned is, what is the cost of lime per acre? People are looking at now at the cost-benefit analysis. What is the cost of lime per acre? The CEO, you would want to respond to that? Yes. No, it's at the farthest end, yes.
The cost of lime per acre. Lime is the cheapest product, actually about 300 cents per bag, which means 6,000 per ton. In most cases, farmers are asked to apply about 20 bags to the acre in that region. So that means about 6,000 shillings per acre.
Okay.
And then you have up to about 4 or 5 years of no application, which means then that 6,000 takes you for that period.
All right.
And of course, as I mentioned earlier, lime is better in powder form because then you treat the entire soil, and then you only come back to maintain it using lime that is in granule form, which makes it more expensive. Thank you.
All right. All right. Yeah, Professor. One last line.
Yeah, I think it depends on the soil acidity level, just as he has mentioned, and at what level you want to reduce the pH depending on the crop. So it varies, but it's very cheap, just as he has said. Thank you.
It's affordable, not very cheap. It's affordable. All right, so we want to go to the next bit of the presentations or the remarks. And for this, we'll have a few guest speakers, and I'd like to invite a few to come. And the first one I'd like to invite is John Wendt. John Wendt, let me just open his bio. John Wendt is a senior soil fertility and fertilizer expert for IFDC in East and Southern Africa, and he's based here in Nairobi. He has 26 years of experience across the agricultural research to development continuum in diverse African environments, that is the semi-arid, the Sahel, East African savannas, West Africa rainforest, and is involved in cereals, legume, and root tuber crops. His current area of focus is on balanced crop nutrition, which is addressing multiple crop nutrient deficiencies and soil acidity constraints. He holds a doctorate in agronomy from Purdue University. He also earned a master's degree in agronomy and bachelor's degree in agriculture engineering from Texas A&M, I believe. All right, so he is here to represent IFDC. Let's give a round of applause to Mr. John Wentz. Come on, let's give him a better round of applause.
Great. Can we call up that slide presentation? Okay. Okay, there we go. So I'm just going to speak very briefly about IFDC's role in fertilizer development and targeting. Just a one-slide introduction. IFDC was established in 1974. We work internationally and in Africa to alleviate hunger through improved fertilizer technologies and agricultural practices, but also input and output market development, both for fertilizers and for commodities. We're based in Muscle Shoals, Alabama, where we have a pilot plant, a fertilizer pilot plant, and we're active in 29 countries. So I'm not able to move this. Whoops, now it's moving. Okay. So one of our major focus, probably the major agronomic focus now, is on balanced crop nutrition, which is supplying not just the NP and the NPKs, but all the nutrients that might be deficient. Here's a slide from Mozambique maize, wheat Ethiopia. So we're seeing these kind of responses throughout a lot of Africa. It doesn't mean everywhere, but I would say in the majority of places where we need to think beyond DAP and CAN, or DAP and urea, and look at other nutrients as well. Here's beans in Rwanda. You can see a big difference from the left and the right side. And this is just an example of what we had achieved in Rwanda, looking at balanced crop nutrition. So we compared balanced fertilizers, which include sulfur and other micronutrients, zinc, boron, and copper, with what was the blanket recommendation of DAP or 1717, depending on crop. And those were the kind of yield increases we achieved over multiple years and multiple crops. And our approach has been what we call the SMART approach, which begins with regional soil testing. It could be on a country basis, could be on a region, where we're just getting a full analysis to identify which nutrients are deficient. And we use mapping to determine that. From that, we develop some formulations. That's the recommendations development step. And we actually field validate it, because you don't want to go to market with a product that you haven't tested and proven. And then finally, we work with scaling, transfer to farmers through fertilizer companies. This is just an example of work done in Rwanda. Crop Nutrition Laboratories was in charge of the sampling and mapping. So you see we did that for multiple nutrients. I have pH and 5 of the nutrients here. And so you can see anything not green basically is green, or anything not green or blue is where we're seeing deficiencies. So there's a lot of deficiencies other than NPK. We have further refined that now, and I would say we're in the middle of a project to refine that called the space to place approach. So we're getting space information would be like through the soil mapping work we have done, but also information on soil types, climate, water holding capacity, vegetation, agroecology. We get that on a very large scale. And then at the bottom side, so if I can just, I can't really point at it, but at the field level, actual farmer field level, we source some information related specifically to observations farmers can make on their field, such as soil texture. They may have a cropping history, or even you can look at soil color, make some very simple determinations there. And we want to combine this into a DST decision support tool to help farmers make level at the field level. So at one part already, we are developing crop-specific and region-specific fertilizers. And now we want to target those better in terms of the fertilizer type, but also the fertilizer rate that matches the yield potential. So again, we're developing those decision support tools, and we intend to reduce fertilizer waste. So just to sum this up, liming in Kenya, you've already seen this slide. And liming, of course, is very important to maximizing your fertilizer use efficiency. Obviously, if you have acidity constraints, whether it be due to aluminum toxicity or calcium and magnesium deficiency, you need to address those to get the most out of your fertilizer. So developing the lime value chain is very important, and I'm hoping that this effort from this liming manual will really focus our attention on what needs to be done. We also need field level lime requirement assessments and lime response trials, so we can be more assured of what kind of profits we can realize the first year and years beyond. And then finally scaling it up so a lot of farmers are using it. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Another round of applause to Dr. John. Thank you so much. All right, so to represent the director from Calro, that is Dr. Eliud Kiragel, I'd like to invite Dr. Felicita Makini, who is the Deputy Director, General Crops, to come and represent. Let's give her a round of applause. Karibu sana. Let's give her a better round of applause. Dr. Makini. Yeah, let me not say what I wanted to say. She knows.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Yeah, I'm representing the DG Calro, as I've heard, and I bring his apologies because he was not able to be here, but I'm here on his behalf. And so I'll just give his remarks. The CS representative for the Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock Development, the Director Agribusiness, Mr. Gilbert Muthe, the Food Security Advisor representative, Henry Kinyu, distinguished guests, members of the KEFAT platform, all participants attending this launch event, both physically and virtually. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I'm delighted to be part of this important meeting for the launch of the Soil Acidity and Liming Handbook for Kenya. As we all know, Food is one of the basic physiological needs that human beings require for survival. I think we would not be sitting here if there was no food. With an increasing global food demand, the world needs to produce sufficient food to support its ever-expanding populations. The agriculture sector continues to play a critical role in Kenya, accounting for 20% of gross domestic product and 27% indirectly through its linkages with other sectors. The sector also accounts for over 40% of the total employment and more than 70% of employment for the rural populace. A major constraint in food production in Kenya is low and declining soil fertility, mainly caused by continuous cultivation without adequate nutrient replenishment. This soil fertility decline is confounded by soil acidity, which affects 63% of Kenya's arable land and has been recognized as one of the biggest challenges our farmers face when it comes to realizing a good crop harvest in many parts of Kenya. During the course of my work, I sometimes meet such farmers and see a sense of helplessness in them. For example, our research work shows that in acid soils of Uasin Gishu, some fertilizers effectiveness is reduced by up to 30%. As such, most of these farmers lose hope in their farming business, and the kilimo biashara call loses meaning. The solutions we require for these farmers is a well-coordinated, systematic approach, right from soil testing and proper recommendations, correct inputs in terms of seeds, fertilizers, pesticides, herbicides, and generally good agronomic practices, processing and access to markets. For our agricultural land, liming has been recognized as an appropriate approach to reduce soil acidity and enhance crop yields in the acidic soils in Kenya. Farmers indeed require knowledge on soil acidity and its management to maximize on agricultural productivity. KALRO, alongside many partners, has not only continued to offer soil sampling and testing services, but also collected, harmonized, and disseminated soil health research information covering many value chains and agroecological zones. Similarly, through the research findings and engagements, with stakeholders, KALRO has been at the front line of generating information, knowledge, and technologies that is able to inform policy. The Soil Acidity and Liming Handbook for Kenya lays a strong foundation to ensuring that the big challenges faced by our farmers is addressed. Issues on standardizing and harmonizing soil acidity and liming knowledge, information, and technologies, and improving access to this information, amongst other areas addressed in the handbook, are key to us in KALRO. We shall continue working closely with all our stakeholders to ensure that our agriculture is sustainably productive, profitable, and environmentally sound. Finally, it is my great pleasure to welcome the CSS representative, the Director of Agribusiness, Mr. Gilbert Mude, to give his address and officially launch the Soil Acidity and Liming Handbook for Kenya. Thank you, and God bless you.
Good afternoon. Yeah, just allow me to take a few seconds. Probably to introduce to you some of our colleagues that are part of the ministry. Maybe
They can wave, eh? Yeah. People from the Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock Development, kindly wave. Yeah, we are two. Dr. Camberia is a personal assistant in the CS office. Then Edwin Oseko is in charge of farm input promotion in the ministry. So just allow me for now. I'm here to represent the CS, who is currently participating in the devolution conference that is in Eldoret. Actually, he would have loved to be here because I know he's a farmer, and this is quite important, even for him as a person. And more so, the importance that actually the current government is putting to issues concerning soil management in order to increase productivity. I'll go to the speech. Mine is actually to deliver the remarks of the CS, Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock Development during this launch of the soil acidity and liming handbook for Kenya. Director General Carlo, the Gatsby Africa team, the team from IFCDC, Food Security Advisor from the Office of the President, distinguished members of KENFAT, all participants attending this handbook launch event, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to join you in this important event. I understand that the launch has attracted many stakeholders, including those participating virtually from our countries across Kenya and in other countries worldwide. The agricultural sector is the backbone of Kenya's economy, providing a source of livelihood to over 80% of Kenyan population. This means we need to take care of our soils for them to remain productive. Acidic soils hamper crop production and are a major cause of crop yield reduction and low incomes. Currently, 13%, that is around 7.5 million hectares of Kenya's soil are acidic, translating to approximately 63% of Kenya's arable land. Soil acidity is concentrated in central, western, and Rift Valley regions, the main food basket of Kenya. In addition, soil acidity is also found in some parts of eastern and coastal regions. Ladies and gentlemen, soil acidity has adverse impacts that threaten Kenya's food security and limit agribusiness potential. This also negatively affects other related industries which rely on agriculture for their inputs. Soil testing and data interpretation are integral parts of soil acidity management. However, soil testing provides information on the acidity status of soils that can be used for making corrective measures through lime application recommendations. The government, through Kenya Agricultural and Livestock Research Organization and other stakeholders, have been working on the soil mapping with the aim of digitizing for ease of reaching more stakeholders. Liming of acid soils by use of agricultural lime is the most common and effective remediation strategy for improving crop production through agronomic, although agronomic benefits of liming are well known, the practice is not yet common in Kenya. As of 2023, adoption of lime by farmers was very low, ranging from 1%, between 1% and 8%. The work perfectly coincides with the government's bottom-up economic transformation agenda that has prioritized agriculture as one of the key pillars of our economic recovery plan. And for that matter, to realize the desired results and agricultural pillar, the government has developed strategies to reduce the cost of production through availability of affordable inputs, provision of mechanization services, capacity building on agronomic practices, and dissemination of technologies. The significance of food as a fundamental human need cannot be overstated, and meeting the escalating global food demand remains a critical challenge. Soil acidity emerges as a pressing obstacle affecting a substantial portion of the Kenya's arable land and consequently jeopardizing food security and income stability for many. The law of soil health, bolstering crop yields, underscores the necessity of comprehensive knowledge dissemination among farmers. By reducing soil acidity through liming, we are able to improve productivity and reduce input costs, which contribute positively to the three agricultural pillars of food security, reduced imports, and growth in exports. Under ASTGS 2019 to 2029, flagship number 2, liming is part of the nationwide subsidy program, and using lime to neutralize soil acidity together with other inputs that match soil needs, such as phosphate fertilizers, would lead to an increased yield of up to 77% in these areas over 5 years. Ladies and gentlemen, being cognizant of the importance of having the right information, the ministry, research institutions, universities, private sector, and development partners in the year 2021 sought to produce this handbook through the Kenya Fertilizer Roundtable as a reference material for soil acidity and liming information in the country. This handbook will be instrumental in offering technical advice to farmers and soil acidity, its collection and application. I now declare the soil acidity and liming handbook for Kenya officially launched. Thank you very much.
All right, I was hoping for a better round of applause on that. All right, so our chief guest, just before you go to sit down, kindly just go to that spot. That is where, correct, he's already inviting us. That's where we are doing our launch. In my other world, I'm called King of Good Times, and this is the time for what? Come on, guys, this is the time for what? All right, so what we want to do is I'd like to invite all of us to come as close as we can. So if we can all come and just stand right here, that would be lovely. Our chief guest, if you could just go and stand next to that podium right there. All right, DJ, if you could just pump it up a bit, we want to dance on our way to the celebration. I want all of us to come as close as we can. And then I want us to just start snapping like this. Just snap a bit. Come on. You guys are not celebrating. Let's snap as we clap. Are you happy to be here today? All right, all right. All right, DJ, just kidogo, kidogo. DJ, all right. So our camera people, where would you want us to stand? I don't want us to be blocked. Right there? All right, so that's where we will launch from. Dr. McKinney, just move closer to our director. All right, and I'd also invite Michael to just join them as well. So what we're going to do is we will press this one, and then it will launch, and then miracles will happen. All right? But as that miracle happens, we have music. So this is like a production. So the music sings, we all clap and celebrate, and then they press the button, and then it happens, and then miracles happen, and then we are happy, and then we capture that. Is that okay? Are we ready? Come on, guys. Let me give us the instruction again. Instruction number 1, the music will play. We will all be clapping and celebrating and being happy, all right? And then they will press the button. When they press the button, we're all celebrating, and then the miracles will happen, and then we'll all see the book. Is that okay? All right, so just before we do that, let me get my copies. Where are my books? Oh, they're here. Great. Thank you. Let them just be there for a minute. All right, DJ, are you ready? Let's go. Everybody, let's go. And if you can move to the right, to the left, that would be lovely. Dr. Estilaba, this is what you used to do in 1961. All right, our chief guest, if you could go ahead and press the button. All right, let's celebrate, ladies and gentlemen. Let's celebrate one more time. All right, I'm waiting for my miracle. There we go, there we go, there we go. All right, so what we will do is we will have a few photo sessions. I'd like to invite our chief guests, our 2 chief guests, together with Mr. Michael, just hold one of these books and come here on the stage. DJ, we're still playing the music in the background. Correct. So what we do is we will just hold the book and smile. There we go. I'd like to invite Dr. John Wentz to join them as well. Dr. Wentz, kindly join them. Yeah. This guy in Texas was the hot guy. Yeah. All right, Estilaba, where are you? Yeah, 1961. Other people are fighting for independence, you're having fun. All right, so let's pause. Our camera guy, tell me when you're ready. All right, now let's have the universities join. Estilaba is already there. So Professor, Professor, VC, you. I have a lot of copies here and they are all coming. So I'd like, allow me to lead this so that we go in some good fashion. So do we have the universities here? The universities? All right. Universities, are you there? All right. Dr. Mutegi, where are you? Sam Mutegi. Can I have more copies? We had 560 copies just for today. Everyone would go home with like 10. All right, so let's photos first. Once that is done, I'd like to invite the rest of us to join now. So the members of government who are here, representative from government, Mr. Murioki, how did we forget you? Mr. Granular Lime. And of course, I need to give you well. You never know. All right, so now the rest of you will want to remain with the authors only. No, the government should probably stand next to that because that's the photo the president will use. Yes, so the authors, are they still here? Any other authors who are on this side, kindly join. Here you go. Biko, where are you? All right, here you go, Biko. Would like some of you to come front. I don't know whether that Some of you, if you could come to the front. Cameraman, if you could guide me, that would be lovely. Cameraman, kindly, so that we put. Dr. Mwangi, I think you are shorter. Right. Are we good? I'd like to invite the CEO of Homerline to also join. All right, so we want the book to be seen. I don't know why we are covering the book. Make sure the book is seen and in a way that people can read. The right side up, not the upside right. All right, are we good? All right, so I'd like this whole group to leave the stage so that we invite a few more. Don't go very far because we'll have a team, the whole conference photo. All right, so any person from the private sector, everyone from the private sector kindly come. Everyone from the private sector. All right, I see you, sir. How are you? You need to have a copy. Private sector. We need the copies. Those who have the copies kindly give us just for the photo op. Dr. Mwangi, let me borrow this for a second. Thank you. Those who still have the copies, kindly help us for the photo ops. Pick one. Private sector, private sector. Do we have all of us? All right, let's move closer to each other so that we, my good sir, if you could go to the other side, that would be lovely. All right, let's smile. Let's smile at the dollar rates. That's what you guys are using to killing us. Yeah? You know the dollar rose to 150. Now we are not able to sell the CAN at 16,000. All right, thank you, private sector. Just place it here so that we use them as props for now. All the research institutions who are here, Calro and everyone else, research institutions, kindly join. The research institutions. All right, thank you. Research institutions, make sure you have a copy because we want to see you. Thank you. Research institutions, let's all. All right. I think she could come probably right here in the middle. That would be lovely. Yes. John Wentz, you are quite not the short guy. All right. This is the official guy. This is a blogger. Focus on the official guy. No, he's an official guy as well. All right. Thank you so much. Which group haven't I called? Extension guys. I am one of you, by the way. So extension guys, kindly. Extension teams, kindly go there. All right, extension guys, let me see. You're not smiling. 3, 2, 1, let's go. Yeah, that's good. Thank you. Now, the development partners. Where are you? Development partners. Gatsby, FDC, any other development partner in the room today? Any other development partner who is here today? All right, so you need to have a book, John. Where is your book? Here you go. Gatsby, is there any other person from Gatsby who is not here? Development partners. All right. Okay, great, thank you. Any person who has not been on this podium? Who has not been on this podium, apart from myself? Any person who has not been on this podium? All right, take one for me. Take one with me. I'm a little cooler. All right, that's what you use in the newspapers now. All right. We have farmers in the house. Farmers, wherever you are. Where are the farmers? Farmers in the house, where are you? Do you have any farmer here? Apart from those joining us online, farmers? Farmers, we have no farmers. All right. If you can hear me, clap once. If you can hear me, clap once. If you can hear me, clap twice. If you can hear me, clap 3 times. I am still looking for your attention. If you can hear me, clap once. If your neighbor is talking, tell the neighbor shh. If your neighbor is still talking, tell your neighbor shh. All right, I'd like us to settle down for a few minutes. We are still not yet done with our program. We still have about 13 more presentations. And I'd like us to concentrate on those presentations. So those who are still standing, those who are still talking, I'd like us to just settle down for a few seconds. All right. All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Those who are talking, I will take your copy away from you. All right, thank you. So we have a few reactions from online that I'd like us to probably engage for 5 minutes, and then we'll have vote of thanks and then conclude this. So if you guys could kindly just take your seat for a second so that we get a few of those reactions. So online, that's a very good question. So the online was at some point 104. Right now we have 88. So that's quite a huge number. And we have a few questions that just go straight to 2 of them. And also I would like to have a few reactions from the audience, if we have any. So there's a lot of conversations on farmer awareness, a lot of conversations on soil test. Again, I believe lime is prescribed once we know the pH of the soil. And knowing the pH of the soil means the soil testing has been done. So there's a lot of questions around soil testing, availability, and cost. I don't know whether there's anyone who would like to mention something on this. Any organization doing soil testing, and they would like to say where they are doing it from, because there's a lot of question on where can we do soil tests, what is the cost, and that. Yeah, so if we can have a microphone to that gentleman, that would be lovely. He's just next to the sound desk. So that is the first question. And then the second question is, I think Mr. Morioki opened a can of worms on granulated fertilizer. I see a lot of that in this conversation. There's a question, there's actually an interesting conversation about overliming, which is also considered dangerous. I'd like a few inputs on that. Overliming. That means you put excess lime, which is also considered dangerous. And then lastly, probably we'll have Lillian mention something about the cost. I know it was mentioned earlier, but it will just like to hear from the private sector. So my good sir, why don't we start? I have seen you, yes. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Bana Dongo, representing Fadhili Africa. And we offer soil testing as a service. We have the soil kits that are mobile. We're able to test soil at the farmer's level, be able to generate the analysis results and recommendations. Currently, we are working in Central Kenya, but we also get assignments outside. We have people as far as Trans Nzoia. We're also participating in the NALIC project, where we have a number of counties that we are working together to offer services to the farmers.
All right.
Yeah.
So we have Fadhili to the online community. We have Fadhili. Dr. Kamau, go ahead. Fadhili is based in Central Kenya. Which town in Central Kenya?
Yeah, our office is based in Thika Town.
Thika Town.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we have presence in most of the counties in the central Kenya.
All right.
With the mobile machines for soil testing.
Okay. How affordable is your solution?
It's very affordable. And I can say we are offering, we are almost at the Caros price.
Oh,
it's
that's
only
good.
the challenges of logistics that can change.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Dr. Kamau.
Thank you. Caro, it offers soil testing and analysis. We have a network of almost 10 labs that are scattered across our centers. But our biggest reference lab is in Kabete.
NAL.
National Agricultural Research Labs.
Yeah, why don't you just list those? Because even I send my soil samples from Sindo to NAL.
Yes,
Is there any that is close to that place?
We have a lab in Kisii.
Uh-huh.
We have a lab in Kakamega.
Uh-huh.
We have a lab in Kericho.
Uh-huh.
We have a lab in Ruiru.
Uh-huh.
We have a lab in Kibos.
Uh-huh.
How many are those?
5.
Huh?
5 or 6?
6.
6, okay.
We have a lab at Muguga.
Uh-huh.
7.
7, yes.
The other 2, Embu. We have a lab in Embu.
Embu and Busia.
And finally in Busia, Alupe.
Okay.
So those are 10 labs,
yeah,
where somebody can take. You can also take your samples to any of our Caro centers. The only thing we advise is you give us the GPS coordinates of your soil sample.
Okay.
And that will aid us in doing soil maps.
Okay.
Yes. The cost, complete analysis, we charge 1,000.
1,000, but
you know, it's very subsidized.
Yeah.
It's and this is full chemical analysis.
Yeah.
So surely that's a very subsidized price.
No, it is.
So we ask our people, and one of the things that we have a chapter in this handbook on analysis, sampling, you know, those methodologies.
Right.
It's not just about simple pH.
Yeah.
You also need to do exchangeable acidity.
Correct.
And that is a discussion we had with the team that was drafting this.
Okay.
I think it's important because it's not just simple, soil pH. Soil pH is the easy one. But dealing with lime, you just have to do other tests.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Kamau. We had a few reactions. Yes, Mr. Muriuki, let me just come next to you. I'm closest.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that we have one of the oldest private soil testing laboratory. She's more than 40 years old. And we have been running, we have been actually carrying out soil testing since then. We have served all farmers for a very long time, and we are proud of that. We still maintain that laboratory. It is located in Nakuru. Thank you.
What is it called?
It's called Mayor Limited Laboratory. Mayor Limited Laboratory.
What is the cost?
In Nakuru.
In Nakuru.
2,000 shillings for full analysis.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you for that. Yes.
The question of alignment. You test the soil so that you So soil testing is very important because it then informs the amount of lime to be applied so that we don't overlime our soils. Because too much overliming as well has a very bad effect on the crops.
For the farmers who would like to know what you mean by overliming, what exactly is overliming?
You see, this is a situation where your farm requires 20 bags of lime, but you're putting in 60. That is overliming. You require 10 bags, you're putting in 15. That is overliming. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a rich man's problem, so that's okay.
One of the laboratories for those who are coming from Western Kenya region, as I had mentioned earlier, is Rongo University. So you can bring your soils there for testing at affordable costs. Depending on what you want to test, but the normal tests comes up to 1,200.
All right. The last conversation, just before I open it, I know you have a question, is on the cost of liming. You had something.
So on the cost of liming and also on the cost of soil analysis, I'd like to say what I usually tell farmers is think on the return on investment. So the cost of lime may be high, 6,000, 10,000, but think once I lime, I'm going to double my yields and for the next several years. So think in terms of the return on investment. On overliming, it becomes a challenge when you're using the granulated lime. You have to be very careful not to put more than the recommended of 50 kilo per acre or 100 at most. That's where, because it's a more of a localized effect because you're applying it together with the fertilizer. If you put more than the recommended, you would easily get that effect of overliming. And then I would really want to correct my colleague here when he says, what is it called? Granulated lime is not the best solution. It is actually the best solution because it can also be used as for broadcasting. And it solves many issues that have come with adoption of lime. So where, for example, for the powdered lime, you may require like 3 tons. For granulated lime, because it's very efficient, it's very small granules that have been granulated together, the efficiency is higher. So for example, if you've been recommended for 3 tons for the powdered lime, for the granulated lime, you might probably need half that. Of course, it has to be determined based on the soil testing. So with the amount of lime that they have, when they go through the granulation, I think it's even better for them.
Again, the underlying theme is granulated and non-granulated. Let me come to this gentleman. You had a question.
Thank you. No, it was a remark. I think there's an understanding on lime and what lime is. And it's important to note that when we talk about lime, there's calcium carbonate and magnesium carbonate. There's no such thing as overtoxicity from calcium. You can give as much calcium and you won't have that problem. Magnesium is where it becomes problematic. Lime is also a carrier of carbon, not just calcium, but also it's calcium carbonate. And so it's important to note that this is an organic sedimentary rock. So it can be applied even in large volumes. As long as you have pure calcium carbonate, you will have no problem, even in your soil uptake, unless your pH crosses 7. Which is very, very, very difficult to do. So I think there should not be a concern about overliming as long as you have the right quality lime.
Right quality lime.
Yeah.
So you've taken us to chemistry and quality now. Are you guys ready for calcium, magnesium, bicarbonate, and all those conversations?
So I wanted just to throw in my 2 bits worth on granulated lime and powdered lime. So as Lydia rightly mentions, granulated lime is when you take limestone and you make it extremely fine first. And then after making it very, very fine, it is then granulated. And those granules, they fall apart immediately. And they're very, very soluble in the soil, and they result in a fast and immediate pH change in the environment around which they're applied. And in fact, it's so fine that it's actually mobile in the soil. So you can surface apply it and it can get down into the soil. The problem is there is a cost associated with grinding lime that fine. It's like submicron particle size, much finer than agricultural grade lime. And so that cost will let you apply a very little and you'll get immediate availability, but it won't last year after year. So you really must consider the trade-offs of an immediate acting lime that you can apply at a low rate, but that's expensive per bag, versus a long-term solution where you're applying lime. And I would say each of them definitely have their applications. You know, if you have to surface apply, for example, you may want that granular lime, especially if you want a quick response. So it's not an easy, this is good, this is better. It really depends on your circumstances. But, you know, worldwide, I would say the way farmers, and they have both options, it's not a new thing, that most farmers who are able to incorporate their lime do use agriculture grade, which is sort of powdered lime.
Mm-hmm. All right, thank you. I believe we do not have any other remark or reaction. No? All right, thank you. So much for everyone who has contributed. I'd like to now invite Dr. David to come and give the vote of thanks. Then thereafter, we will have closing prayer, then we proceed for lunch. So Dr. David, karibu sana.
Thank you, MC. You've done a superb job. Sindio. So good afternoon, everybody. Yes, you'll agree with me that it has been a very good event. This is a milestone when it comes to Kenya Fertilizer Roundtable Forum. And for us, we are happy about this. But I'm here to give a vote of thanks. First, let me just say that we thank our Almighty God. This far, it has taken His grace. I remember the journey to doing the handbook started in February 2020. So it has taken us 3.5 years of workshops, write-shops, meetings, and all that. So I really want to thank Almighty God for seeing us through. I also want to take this opportunity to thank our CS, Honorable Mithika Linturi, for accepting to do the forward for this handbook, and also to my friend Gilbert for ably representing the CS in this event. Thank you very much, and please do pass our gratitude to him for having allowed us to finally complete this handbook in a very special way. The other group I want to maybe give a vote of thanks is the Kenya Fertilizer Roundtable Forum. Since the first Roundtable Forum that was in 2018, 16th to 17th October, it was a 2-day forum at KICC, which recommended, one of the recommendations was that we have this platform, and the first task, I know we've been having several workshops and forums. But the first groundbreaking was the handbook, because we have to had we had to have something we are starting, our foundation, and that is the handbook. The 9 chapters that are in this handbook talk to different types or users. And I remember one of the questions that was asked was about whether we can go at the next step of having more user-friendly pamphlets. And that to me is where we are heading. Our next step is to look at users of this handbook and see how best to reach them in a big way. So we'll have smaller pamphlets that specific users of this handbook. Then we also want to thank, we know a lot of people have been involved in exercise, and we want to thank all the CEOs who have allowed their staff to take part in this write-up. It has taken time, and a lot of time, ranging from all these, the ones you are seeing the logos, looking at from the Ministry of Agriculture, Fertilizer Association of Kenya, CARO, Gatsby Africa, Kenya Market Trust, IFDC, Maseno, Rongo, Pwani, APNI, and many others who have been involved. Sometimes we had to have forums with stakeholders before we came up with this. And all those who attended, both physically and virtually, this function, we are very thankful to all of us. Then lastly, I want to thank Villa Rosa Peace Key. I know we have not taken our lunch, but I'm very sure. The breakfast we had was worth it, wasn't it? So let's thank the Villa Rosa for doing this.